Class 5. So today we are story writing, and this is a very, very quick video to give an example of what I expect from you today in terms of content. Now, we haven't done a whole lesson planning. However, you can see up here I've got some notes: character, setting, plot, and for those I've got 1 or 2 words. The reason for that is because the last week I've done all of these things, I've planned them, I've got a character description, so I've just popped her name here. I've got a setting which I've described, so I've just popped a reminder there. And then the plot, the current issues work we did, mine was climate change. All of that has been done. I've got that work in front of me to help with my writing. Moving on to problem and resolution. I have made a few more notes for these. Obviously this is a story, so I've exaggerated problem slightly to give this this problem and this resolution here. So we're running out of time to reverse the climate changes, and while people are locked inside, this is obviously very exaggerated, but this is my resolution here. Essentially my character Iris, which as we talked about last week, I've chosen my name very carefully. Iris is a flower, so kind of linking to this climate change problem here, and as you learn more about my character you'll see why she's called Iris. But she designs this clever invention. She shares through the power of social media, and it eventually resolves the problem. So obviously, because it's a story, it can be a little bit exaggerated, doesn't have to be true. The reason though that we're using a current affair, something we read about in the newspaper at the moment, as the basis for our plot is to kind of write in a similar style to how Charles Dickens would have done, where he, had these made-up characters, but they were based around events that happened in his life. So you've got all the work you did last week. You thought a little bit more about your problem and resolution, what's going to happen, and today you're going to start writing a story. And you are just going to write your introduction, build-up, and the start of your problem today. The start of your problem. Not the entire problem, not the resolution. You're going to write for an hour, and in that time you should get character and setting description done as part of your build-up. You should start to talk about the plot, and you should start to lead up to the problem. Remember, some of the stories we've looked at recently as well aren't just one straight problem. You get a problem, it's almost like a little hill. So you get a problem, and then you get another problem, and then you get another problem, and then you start to resolve those problems. So you think of it as kind of like just getting to this first hurdle here, and that's what you're writing about today. The reason I want you to do that is because what I've noticed in lots of pieces of writing that I've been getting back is this very rushed ending. And we don't ever read a storybook that spends ages writing these fantastic descriptions of character, setting, talking about plot, and then just ends in one page. And that's the kind of thing I'm seeing. So I want you to spend a whole lesson tomorrow thinking about resolving this problem, kind of making these little mini problems for your characters to encounter, and before we reach that ending over here. So, enough about the plan, let's move on to the writing. I've started some writing. Now, I've not done the whole thing because you need to spend time today writing your own story. But here's the start of my first paragraph, and this has come from my setting description last week. I'm just going to point out some use of commas for clarity. So we've got 2 commas here around thick and opaque because this is extra information. I've also got 2 commas here around 19 degrees in January because this is also extra information. So my first paragraph is it's working towards becoming quite a dramatic setting description, and then I would go on to talk about the busy London street where my story is set, and then I've got an adverbial for my London tension here behind the thick glass front of Bean and Hop with a comma, which leads into my character description. So obviously there would be more writing up here that I've not yet put out for you, but you can see that I start with the setting description, and then in my next paragraph where I'm talking about my character, I've got an adverbial to link to what I was talking about. I still need to include figurative language in my setting and character descriptions, which I will do. And as I move on and start to build up into the problem, that's an opportunity for me to use inverted commas for speech as I introduce more characters. You may have some work from your storyboarding yesterday as well to support you with that. Anyway, that's enough from me. hopefully this is helpful. Remember, you're just writing the beginning and the build-up today. We are not concluding these stories. Please, if you need to, have a look back at all the other videos from the last week if they're helpful. Think about cliffhangers as well. I had some brilliant ones back already. You can start to include those in your work today and use this work here from last week, because it will help you write a really brilliant story. All those entire lessons you've spent describing character settings and plots, you can plonk those into your story today and it should look great. Good luck.